Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition brought to you by Canal Algérie. First, to the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, chairs a meeting of the High Security Council devoted to assess the general situation of the country. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives Algeria's ambassadors to France, Antar Dawood, due to resume his mission today. The famous Algerian artist Mohamed Helmi passes away at the age of 90, and a vibrant tribute paid by the President of the Republic to the family of the deceased icon. Good evening, those were today's headlines. First, in our news, the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presided over the High Security Council meeting, a meeting held on Wednesday and which was devoted to the assessment of the country's general situation. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday the Algerian ambassador to France, Mohamed Antar Dawood, who is going back to Paris in order to resume his missions starting Thursday, January the 6th, according to a communique released by the presidency. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, addressed a message of condolences to the family of the late comedian artist Mohamed Helmi, who passed away at the age of 90, a message in which the President of the Republic said, quote, "It is with deep sorrow and sadness that I received the death of the artist Mohamed Helmi. May Allah Almighty grant him mercy. We lost an icon of the Algerian artistic scene, a true artist who throughout the years contributed by his creativity and talent to the enrichment of television and film production. He left his mark on several works of high quality. He also gained the public's respect and love. On this painful ordeal, I would like to present to the culture and art family and to the family of the late my most sincere condolences. To Allah we belong and to Him we shall return." End of quote. The late Mohamed Helmi was buried on Wednesday afternoon at the Sidi Mohammed Cemetery here in Algiers, in the presence of members of his family and prominent artistic and cultural figures. Known as Mohamed Helmi, who had marked the cultural and artistic life from independence to our days, passed away after a long and rich itinerary. Ines Kilou has more details.
Mohamed Helmi, whose real name is Amzian Brahimi, is an Algerian actor born on February 15, 1931, in Azifoun municipality in Tizi Ouzou province, an icon of radio, theater and television. He has marked the cultural and artistic life in Algeria. His career began at the age of 17 years old when he attended a sketch by Hassan al-Hassani, who performed the role of an Aina. Mohamed Helmi moved to Algiers and joined the Algerian National Theatre, known as the Algiers Opera House, under the directed by the great Mahidine Beshtarzi. In 1947, Mohamed Helmi interpreted small role like the theatrical play Wuld Dalil. In 1949, he wrote his first radio letter for the Kabyle channel. In 1950, theater welcomed him. He interpreted a lot of sketches and ditties. After the independence of Algeria, Mohamed Helmi marked his presence as a matchless master of humor and comic. Then Mohammed Hilmi started directing films and medium-length films such as شكون سبق, الغموق, الفهمي, الاستهلاك, Après Pétrole. Few years later, he produced many films with collaboration of many great names of the Algerian cultural scene. His perseverance, his courage, his authenticity, his love for art allowed him to win the heart of the Algerian people, who will never forget him.
Prime Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman chaired on Wednesday a cabinet meeting during which he examined several files related mainly to the sectors of justice, housing, public works and micro-enterprises and environment, according to a communique released by the services of the Prime Ministry. The measures of protecting against COVID-19 were prolonged for another period of 15 days, starting from Wednesday. This decision by the Prime Minister of Finance, came in line with the instructions of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, after consulting the Scientific Committee. The government reiterates its call for citizens to support the national efforts to fight against this global pandemic through respecting the health measures by the wearing of face masks and social distancing, but particularly vaccination, which remains the best means of prevention. 462 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 252 recoveries and 7 deaths have been recorded in the last 24 hours in Algeria, according to a communique released by the Ministry of Health on Wednesday. Specialists renew their call for vaccination, the best way to curb the pandemic. But despite the availability of the vaccine and the fact that it is free of charge, many Algerians still hesitate to get vaccinated. Ines Killu has more details.
At Zubida Wilkabliya High School of the municipality of Draria, after several hours of waiting, this doctor has not received any teacher for the inoculation. This act is currently daily, despite the launch of a third vaccination campaign for the benefit of civil servants in the education sector. All the means are there, but the teachers are always reluctant about this vaccination. Practically, in some schools, we have had no applicants. Same atmosphere in the hospital of Hadi Flisi, where our team moved to have a look. In almost 1 hour, only 2 people came to get the vaccine. We have noticed that people are stimulated by the waves. It is necessary to be vaccinated before the wave comes, to be well immunized, and not at the time of the wave, because it will be for nothing. Laziness in receiving the vaccination, despite the efforts made by the public authorities to ensure the availability of the vaccine for free.
The assessment of parliamentary diplomacy during the second semester of 2021 was at the heart of a meeting held on Wednesday at the National People's Assembly. The meeting was chaired by the President of the Assembly, Brahim Boughali, in the presence of leaders of parliamentary groups, vice presidents of the Assembly, along with the head of the International Relations and Parliamentary Cooperation Directorate, Mohamed Barqouk. A total of 59 activities, including Brahim Boughali's reception of several parliamentary delegations and 9 ambassadors accredited in Algeria. The World Bank's report on Algeria is the work of a fabricator with close relations to the Makhzen, named Farid Belhaj, Vice President of the World Bank in charge of the MENA region, issued under the guidance of the Moroccan Royal Palace. More details with Manal Ammari.
The false report by the World Bank on Algeria was issued under the guidance of the Moroccan Royal Palace, aided by this institution's vice president, none other than the Tunisian Farid Belhaj, a close friend of the Prince of Morocco, Moulay Rashid, as well as many Moroccan ministers. It is the same man who occupied the post of Principal Private Secretary of the President of the World Bank and established close links with the Makhzen regime when he was in charge of the World Bank's operations for Morocco from 2002 to 2007. In 2018, he was promoted to Vice President of the World Bank for the MENA region, after occupying several positions at this monetary institution, during which many complacent reports on Morocco were written, including the latest one classifying the kingdom as one of the rare countries that took advantage of the pandemic, which goes against the truth. Many experts fear that more misleading reports on Algeria will be published in the future, ordered by the Moroccan Makhzen.
The Makhzen regime constitutes a danger to its immediate environment as well as Europe, according to specialists. The latest proof was during the seizure by the Spanish customs of 5 tons of cannabis hailing from Morocco, a narco-state which floods many countries. The details in this report by Karim Faz-Zakari.
The Kingdom of Morocco has become a narco-state since a long time, constituting a big problem to its neighboring countries and representing a real danger to the European ones, according to the political analyst Bella El-Kanti. Morocco constitutes a real risk and danger for the European countries, seeing the large quantities of drugs produced in the kingdom. The fact that makes certain observers to say that Morocco has transformed to a narco-state for a long time, creating big problems to its neighboring countries, especially Algeria. Harking back to the case of the seizure of last Wednesday by the Spanish authorities of a semi-rigid boat carrying nearly 5 tons of hashish, the analyst specified further that the people who were arrested by the Spanish authorities within the framework of this naval air operation are all of Moroccan nationalities. This criminal activity of selling drugs, which is linked with other networks of terrorism, have a direct connection between them and Morocco. It's also linked to terrorism activities in the Sahel region. It's a narco-terrorist network which represents a great danger to many countries. As a reminder, the Customs Surveillance Service of the tax Spanish agency intervened Wednesday night in the waters east of the Strait of Gibraltar to seize a semi-rigid boat, according to a statement from the tax agency. Last September, the Spanish police announced the seizure near the city of Granada of 26 tons of cannabis aboard a truck from Morocco. Last June, the UN claimed that cannabis trafficked around the world came mainly from Morocco.
Still with Morocco, where popular discontent keeps growing, travel agencies professionals took to the streets for several days to protest against the extension of the border closing by the Makhzen regime, a decision which had serious consequences on their sectors. More details with Manal Ammari.
Protests are still going on in Morocco, with travel agencies professionals who expressed their discontent with the Makhzen's persistence to keep its borders closed, despite the serious losses they suffer and the devastating consequences for the country's economy. As you know, the borders remain closed. Most protesters here work with international companies. Domestic tourism will never substitute for foreign tourism. The border closing, which was extended until the end of the current month, put travel agencies at a standstill, causing financial losses. For their part, tour operators do not benefit from any support or measures which meet their needs or expectations. The vaccination campaign is going well. We are not asking for state subsidies. We only demand for the borders to open so we could go back to working normally. When preventive measures relating to the suspension of travel between the cities was reinforced, the Moroccan authorities allowed the access of Zionists in Morocco in accordance with the normalization agreement by organizing direct flights between Morocco and the Zionist entity, which multiplied the number of Zionist visitors by 4. An opening categorically rejected by the president of the Moroccan Organization for the Support of the Nation's Causes, Abdessamad Fethi, who considers this a betrayal and moral degradation which will allow Zionists to invade Morocco under the guise of tourism.
Other calls for public protests in Morocco are those of the Moroccan National Coordination of Teachers. This latter plans to resume its protests by organizing a national strike on January 17th and 18th. It also condemns the imprisonment and other legal proceedings taken against teachers. Human rights violations are perpetrated on an almost daily basis towards the Sahrawi people, violations committed by the Makhzen regime, and the struggle continues along the Wall of Shame in Western Sahara. Units of the Sahrawi Liberation Army carried out new attacks against the Moroccan occupier in Laqad and Oudi al-Darman in Al-Mahbas region. The national football team remains unbeaten for 34 consecutive games following its meritorious victory over the Ghanaian side in a friendly match held in the Qatari capital, Doha. Algeria's goals were scored by Adam Mounaz, the Ghanaian player Jonathan on own goal, and Slimani. This game is a good test for the Desert Warriors before heading to Cameroon to defend their continental title. That was it for our news for today. Thank you for joining us and good night.